The commentators resembled Proasa's commentators more than anyone else. You're expected to be objective when that little thing says live on air, announcing all that this and that. No. Every week, there are plots, drama, and controversy. When Caitlin Clark is not playing, philanthropic fans giving dildos is the WNBA's biggest story. Kathy Engelberg came under fire from Becky Hammond for the league's dearth of competent officials. A groin injury doesn't take 10 weeks to heal. Then, as of yesterday, we discover that it isn't the groin. Just 2 minutes ago, ESPN released AMGR commentators accused of degrading Caitlin Clark were fired in a surprise. It's the most outrageous action of the playoffs, according to fans. The WNBA, while Caitlin Clark is playing as a prominent subject in the media. When Caitlin Clark is not playing, there are weekly plotlines, intrigue, and controversy. Donating dildos by kind fans is the WNBA's biggest story. It was said that the pundits for the Fever vs. AC games were blatantly biased and openly backed Las Vegas rather than remaining impartial. A broadcaster even called the Aces "we" at one point, which instantly alarmed Fever supporters who felt humiliated and disregarded. In fact, the number of pro-Aces commentators on the Fever vs. Aces game, one was the highest you will ever witness. They were quite pro-Vegas. They were not neutral in the slightest. I'm very certain that T saw a commentator call Vegas "we." But that's simply the way it is. It's simply the way things are. It's just that we used to talk about things. Like I saw someone joking about in the old they seem to oppose the underdogs. The Indiana Fever playoff game was originally scheduled to be called by Pam Ward, Lena Robinson, and Angel Gray, but their blatant partiality incited controversy. Admires highlighted instances in which these commentators strayed from commentary into cheerleading by using phrases like "we," "us," as though they were members of the Aces. Ryan Rico is here now. You wager. When Ryan Rico does that, I adore it. You wager? The Indiana Fever vs. Las Vegas Aces game was announced by Ryan Rico, Rebecca Lobo, and Holly Rowe. Now, during the last game, we had another group, the Pam Ward group, and they were discussing how they were actually going to Las Vegas. "We must do this, I see. We made a joke and now we're embarrassed." For example, what do you mean by "we"? You mean we? Even Skip Biss entered the fray, casting doubt on the veracity of rumors circulating around Caitlin Clark and the Fever. He pointed out how odd and contradictory the stories were, which fueled his concerns that the media was unfairly portraying Clark and her team. Now, let's talk about Skip Biss. Now, when Kane Clark appeared on Undisputed, Skip Bollies wasn't a huge fan at first. He's kinda over-ranting about her and other things. But gradually, as soon as Kayla Clark entered the resembling Michael Jeffrey Jordan, Skip Bollies abruptly and rapidly changed his mind about a young superstar. Similar to the NBA, Becky Hammond has voiced her dissatisfaction with officiating in a professional league. She emphasized how officials and leadership's lack of accountability was compromising the integrity of games, echoing the general dissatisfaction that fans felt about biased Caitlin Clark and her Fever team were humiliated by the remarks. Kathy Engelberg came under fire from Becky Hammond for the league's dearth of competent officials, noting if this had happened in the NBA, there would have been fighting and other incidents. Now, keep in mind that Becky Hammond was an NBA player who worked for the renowned best of all time, Greg Popovich. She got her knowledge from that person. She has so witnessed NBA physicality. She had also witnessed that time when it was physical. Critics noted that the WNBA has trouble drawing in new players when Caitlin Clark is not participating. Headlines are dominated by attention-grabbing stories rather than embarrassing ones. ESPN and other media outlets' silence over fair coverage further revealed the double standard criterion, demonstrating the extent to which Clark's presence affects the story. I'll give credit to Kat Engelberg. It was a great idea to locate a WNBA team in rainbows. However, the league as a whole is having trouble, except from those two teams. Well, that's not true, Casey. The Atlanta Dreamers' home games against the Felines were completely sold out. Following viewers' indignation, ESPN promptly the broadcast crews were reorganized. Angel Gay, Lena Robinson, and Pam Ward were transferred from the Indiana Fever games to other games, indicating that the network was aware of the harm caused by its biased commentary. Thus, they are no longer participating in this game at this time. They will really be playing a game that does not entail Indiana Fever, which is going to be a positive thing to watch because they were, in my opinion, utterly terrible. Ryan Rucco, Rebecca Lobo, and Holly Rowe were added to the initial group by ESPN because they were viewed as more balanced and expert. Many Fever supporters applauded this action, believing that Caitlin Clark would finally receive fair treatment amid such a pivotal stretch of the playoffs. It's not supposed to go like that at all. Therefore, I believe that ESPN made the proper decision. Additionally, I believe that other shows should also be examined. While we're doing it because we're feeling so groovy and in this mindset. In addition to making changes, I believe that certain other persons should also be examined. The dispute also raised more in-depth queries regarding gupness in league reporting. ESPN's credibility was already under threat, according to analysts like Skip Biss, who emphasized the varying regulations and injury updates surrounding Caitlin Clark. Fire before the switch for the announcer. According to what I understand, they eliminated her eligibility to play when they did so. Now, I looked at that small loophole issue. Scott Agnes is correct about that, but we are unable to confirm it. I commend him for figuring that out. Together with my team, I conducted some research to try to fact-check that, but we were unable to examine it. However, I cannot declare that it is not a rule, nor can I argue that it is not. We just cannot determine where here it is. Do you understand what I mean? To state unequivocally that it is a rule. After saying that, Skip Biss talks candidly about the entire Kayla Clark affair. As ESPN dealt with the problem of the commentators, Becky Hammond and other voices indicated more serious structural issues. She said that it was intolerable that there were no officiating standards or accountability, reflecting the reasons why fans were incensed about the biased remarks. In both incidents, Caitlin Clark and the Fever were not adequately protected by ESPN or the league. Kathy Engelberg is being bombed by Becky Hammond, talking about how if this had happened in the NBA, there would have been fighting and other incidents. Now, keep in mind that Becky Hammond was an NBA employee of the great, all-time great Greg Popovich. That's who she learned from. She has so witnessed NBA physicality. She had also witnessed that time when it was physical. ESPN's decision to take action was even backed by ratings data. Viewership of the playoff games fell precipitously without Caitlin Clark demonstrating her influence ways indisputable. ESPN sought to regain the trust of fans who felt Clark's significance was being downplayed on the show. By dismissing biased pundits. Goal. They're performing so well that, in comparison to last year, the first round's ratings were lower. However, to be fair to the WNBA, in fact, the first round playoff ratings were quite high. ESPN reports that their average viewership was 943,000. The regular season is when the AS anticipated on the channel. Fewer people are watching pretend basketball during the pursuit for the platinum pooper than we are, as the WNBA averaged 969,000 throughout the regular season. The incident exposed the obvious hostility that certain experts, such as Caroline Peck, have had towards Caitlin Clark. Many people think that ESPN's long-standing contempt for such bias is what ultimately compelled the network to make personnel changes. Fans accused ESPN of allowing such bias to air unchecked since Caitlin Clark's birth. Caroline Peck has been a Caitlin Clark hater. It's a fact. It's a fact. Everyone is aware that throughout Caitlin Clark's freshman year, Caroline Peck was acting in a hateful, biased, and disrespectful manner. Come on, I guess. Go ahead, dude. Monica McNutt claimed that she was attempting to award Angel Reese the Dread Rookie of the Year award. And Caroline Peak was one of the Carol YNS. Because of a plus-minus 1 point. Viewers pointed to instances in which Monica McNutt and Carolyn Peck minimized Caitlin Clark's accomplishments, continuously denouncing them as Caitlin Clark haters. Or gave credit to others. For supporters, ESPN's response was merely a first step in resolving what they perceived to be a more pervasive culture of prejudice towards Clark. Bro, it's a bit of a hater. Let's be honest. Caitlin Clark was hated by Monica McNeil. We are aware of that. She was a hater, as we all know. Yes, but we are certain that Monica McNutt makes an effort to tidy things up occasionally. She makes an effort to tidy it up. There are undoubtedly some haters up there for this WNBA countdown show. It is Monica McNutt's hatred. Caroline Peak is a blatant Caitlin Clark hater, and you have her. Everyone is aware of that. Everyone is aware of that. Caitlyn Clark's absence from the NBA was questioned by Skip Biss, who emphasized that the entire sports community would be demanding explanations. If she were a male competitor, his remarks emphasized the unfairness of the coverage and strengthened allegations that Clark wasn't being protected by the league or ESPN. The world would be going crazy over Becky Hammon's comment, "Hey Caitlin, why aren't you playing?" If Caitlin Clark were currently an NBA player, underline that unrestrained aggressiveness in games could result in hazardous situations and accuse the leadership of disregarding this. Her critique was a reflection of the same annoyance that viewers felt towards ESPN commentators as they failed to provide Caitlin Clark, one of the league's brightest stars, with safety and fairness. I'm merely attempting to summarize what you stated. Are you worried that things can get worse because this series is moving to Indianapolis? Or are you just worried about the referee's capacity to keep that under control? The majority of my assistants are NBA veterans, and they say this would not work in the NBA. This degree of their would-be fights because physicality was unacceptable in the NBA. The largest criticism of ESPN and the WNBA was when media attention dwindled drastically without Clark's storylines. Dwindled and ratings fell without her, demonstrating that disrespectful and biased reporting not only degraded Clark T, but also undermined the league's reputation among supporters across the country. Compared to earlier this season and last year, nobody is discussing it. The WNBA is a hot issue in the media when Caitlin Clark is playing. Every week, there are plots, disputes, drama. In the absence of Caitlin Clark, donating dildos by kind fans is the WNBA's biggest story in any case. The Fever have had a successful season. At the very least, whether people desire to win, lose, or tie. The announcement will be impartial and referred to as 50-50ths down the middle. Caitlin could be useful to the Fever team, don't you think? I believed with her healthy, they had a chance to win it all. In any case, the Fever have had a successful season. In any case, it has been successful for the Fever based on what people want to say and think online. There's no denying it. Regardless of what they did this year, the last game was awful. Well, at least we will have a win, a loss, or a draw. The announcement will be objective. It will be okay. Ryan Rico is fantastic, and we can simply play the game, do what we want, and have it caught 50-50ths down the middle and avoid having to listen. Yes, Caitlin could be useful to this suddenly heated Fever team, don't you think? I believe that they had a chance to win it all because she was clearly in good health. I don't understand why this continues happening, but I'm not worried because I know we'll remain calm. The greatest WNBA headline when Caitlin Clark isn't playing is that fans are already becoming disinterested. In the W, it is essentially prison basketball. Becky, keep cooking. The WNBA is a hot issue in the media when Caitlin Clark is playing. When Caitlin Clark is not playing, there are weekly plot lines, intrigue, and controversy. The most significant tale in the dildos are being donated by the WNBA's kind fans. The wilder this narrative becomes, the better. What are your thoughts on ESPN's decision? Drop your opinions and remember to like, share, and subscribe to maintain the having a discussion.